welcome to AccuWeather's Ask the Experts. I'm your host, Jeff Cornish. On this show, we go beyond the everyday forecast to give you the how and why on all the cool and interesting things you've wondered about and wanted to ask in weather, space, and science. In this episode, we're going above the atmosphere and talking about astronomy and stargazing. So joining us as our expert today is Jackie Faherty, a senior research scientist and senior education manager at the American Museum of Natural History. Many of you know that's in New York City. So Jackie, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jeff.
Well, we're glad to be speaking with you again. And how did you get interested in astronomy?
I read a book and I watched a movie called Contact that was written by Carl Sagan. And then the film starred Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey. And the critical thing there was it was a story of an astronomer that was trying to unlock the secrets of the universe by getting a first contact from an alien species. And Carl Sagan made a very, very direct choice to make it a female astronomer and a female lead. And as soon as I saw that and realized that door could be open for me, I fell in love and immediately switched all of my intentions for my career to this that I'm on now, which is an astrophysicist. So that is why I'm able to talk to you today with this title.
That's great. I have seen that movie, and it really is it's a great film. But that's cool how that has influenced your career path. So how long have you been at the American Museum of Natural History, and what types of programs or studies are you working on at the moment?
Well, I've been here for a long time because I started right out of my undergraduate career, and I actually started in the education department. The American Museum of Natural History has some phenomenal education programs where kids can come into the museum and get lessons on everything from the bugs in your area to dinosaur bones to astrophysics. And I was brought in as an instructor for the astro department. And then I went to graduate school and did my thesis work here. So it's been a long time. I don't want to say how long because that will date me, but it's more than a decade that I have been working at this amazing institution. And in my world now, I'm half doing education programming, and this counts in some ways because I'm able to talk to you and get the word out about how awesome astronomy is. But then I also do research. I have a research group here with graduate students and postdocs, undergraduates, and even high school students that I'll invite into my research team over the summer. And we work to unlock the secrets of the universe. And specifically right now, I study worlds that are beyond our own solar system. Sometimes they're referred to as exoplanets, but I study the highest mass ones that fall in the category of exoplanets. And I figure out their atmospheres and Jeff, I figure out their weather. I figure weather patterns out for worlds beyond our own.
That's pretty fascinating stuff. Really, really cool. Well, before we talk about particular things to look out for when stargazing, we recently had a couple of blockbuster astronomical events. We had the recent total solar eclipse. I got to go to the path of totality. Really awesome. And also we've had the most impressive auroras in North America in over 2 decades. So are you noticing an increase in interest in astronomy as kind of a response to these events?
Well, so an increase in interest needs to be compared to where the interest level was before. And I would say anytime there's an astronomical event, the public rallies around and gets excited about it. We just don't have an astronomical event that we can offer up once a week kind of thing. When this past year, 2024, that total solar eclipse definitely had everybody that could be on the path of totality talking about it, even people that weren't on the path of totality. But if you go back to 2017, there was also a total solar eclipse. And that one was in the summer where they didn't have school, kids didn't have school, adults could be on vacation. And that one was also huge. So in comparison, they're similar. And what I would tell you is that astronomy just gets people at their core excited. An eclipse is magical and people want to participate. The aurora is magical. People want to see it. And I would say if we had an astronomical event that I could offer up to you every week, like Netflix with some new series, it would be the top rated show that could be out there, because it's so magical to participate and witness astronomical things happening. So I wouldn't say that the interest level is like completely skyrocketed, because I think it's steady state. People just get excited about astronomical events when they happen.
I think that's part of the draw, I guess, that they're not commonplace, so they're unusual to us as the observer, and that's part of the draw. Well, we want to give everybody a good understanding of how to set ourselves up for success when stargazing. In terms of equipment, what do we really need, and does it need to be expensive?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I get asked it all the time. All astronomers get asked this. My first advice, and this is very, very important. People get so excited about, I want to watch an astronomical phenomenon. I want to know the nighttime sky. What telescope should I buy? And my advice is, do not buy a telescope off the bat. First and foremost, go outside and learn the sky. Just basics about the sky. There is so much for you to explore with just your eye. Figuring out constellations is an easy thing to do. Seeing some naked eye, meaning unassisted by a telescope or binoculars, objects like the Andromeda Galaxy, which is the farthest thing that you can see with your unaided eye, like nebula that are beautiful. Orion Nebula is this beautiful star-forming region. You can see the different colors. Get used to that first, and then you could step up to binoculars, where you could move the binoculars around the sky and kind of easily be able to see through. And most people know how to use binoculars before you get to the telescope, because you kind of have to learn how to look through an eyepiece. And people will get frustrated if they're not exactly sure what parts of the sky they're looking at. So I would say cost is zero at the beginning to just go outside and look up at the sky. And then you can start stepping up to some fairly not that expensive binoculars. You could use them for bird watching, and then you could use them for stellar watching in the evenings. And then consider looking at a small telescope. When you get to the telescope, I would suggest getting one with a motor so that you could actually type in an object that you want to look at, and then it'll point to an area of the sky. For that, though, you need to know the sky first. Know the sky before you step up to the instrument that's going to really bring the sky to life for you.
That's great advice. Well, it is time for our first viewer question, and this comes from Jesse in Colorado. He writes, when I'm looking up at the sky with just my naked eye, how can I tell what's a star, what's an airplane, what's a planet, or a satellite?
All right. This was Jesse. All right, Jesse, and you're in Colorado, so you probably have a good view of the nighttime sky. So the one major thing of an airplane and a satellite in the sky is that they are going to move. Planes and satellites move quickly across the sky. And so you will wait for a bit and you'll be able to see it move. A plane or a satellite will move across your sky and it'll be bright. And oftentimes planes will have different colors. You might be able to see some color on the wings of the plane. Stars are going to stay still. The next thing to try and differentiate would be a planet. Now, planets are different in some ways than the stars. Sometimes we say that the planets don't twinkle the way that the stars will twinkle. And that's because they're closer to you. So to look out for the planets, there are a couple of major ones that you can see with your eye. Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and Venus are the 4 easiest planets for you to try and pick out with your eye. You can kind of see Mercury, but it's oftentimes really close to the sun. So that one's just generally hard to find. Uranus is at the limit of what the eye can see. And then Neptune, you need a telescope or binoculars to see it. And Pluto, which we don't really call a planet, is way out there and just very difficult. But Jupiter and Venus are 2 of the brightest objects in the sky. So they're going to be whoppingly obvious to you when you see them as very bright. And if you come out every night to look at the sky, you'd be able to tell that the planets are moving actually within the stellar constellations that you will start learning. So you'll be able to see the planets because they're orbiting the sun as we're orbiting the sun. They will change their positions the way that the moon changes its positions on a given night. And that is how you can differentiate between a planet and a star. It's how the ancients did it. The word planet actually means wanderer, because they noticed that the planets were actually wandering around the sky, not the same way that the stars were moving.
Very fascinating. Jackie has great information so far, and we have a lot more to talk about coming up. Coming up later in our Weather-Wise segment, 3 interesting things. We're sharing some of the best pictures captured by the James Webb Space Telescope. But next, we're looking at another nighttime phenomenon that sparks a lot of interest, the Northern Lights or aurora borealis. And we're going to answer more of your questions when Ask the Experts returns. Welcome back to AccuWeather's Ask the Experts. I'm your host, Jeff Cornish, and today we're talking about space and stargazing, and joining us again is Jackie Faherty, Senior Research Scientist and Senior Education Manager at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. So let's talk about the phenomenon which seems to be getting more and more interest lately, and we're talking about the Northern Lights or the aurora borealis. Jackie, we had a great event in 2003, another spectacular one early in 2024. What are the Northern Lights and how do they occur?
Yeah, so the Northern Lights are, or the aurora borealis, we call it both things, is a collision. It's a collision between this wind that's coming from the sun and the Earth's magnetic field and atmosphere. So the sun is a big ball of gas, and it's got a hot plasma around it. And for reasons that astronomers are still trying to figure out, the sun can be eruptive, and it can launch charged particles, charged like energy, towards the Earth in events. Sometimes they're called coronal mass ejections. And when that happens, that charge that's coming from the sun gets captured by the Earth's magnetic field. It interacts in the atmosphere, and you'll see beautiful colors because the charges will run into things like oxygen, nitrogen, and you'll see these different colors, the greens, the reds, the blues, are different elements in our atmosphere at different levels in the atmosphere getting excited as this energy hits them that comes from the sun. And the reason why it's happening now at such a big level, to some extent, is the sun goes through this active and inactive period. And we are currently in the Earth's cycle in the active period. So the sun is particularly like burpy and sending out a lot of charged particles our way on a more than regular basis right now.
And when and where can we typically see the Northern Lights? Is there a best time of the year or best time of night?
Well, the best places to go to watch the Northern Lights is farther north. So Norway and Sweden and that area of the world have amazing places to watch. But I'll tell you what you don't want to do is be there in the summer to try and catch the Northern Lights, because they're so far north that the sun doesn't really set for very long, if at all, in some parts of that north. So in an ideal world, you want maximum amount of darkness in order to potentially see the Northern Lights at any time. So the late fall, the winter months, even the early spring, that's when you have a better shot at catching it. It's unpredictable, though, when it's going to happen. I can't tell you, like, next week there's going to be a great solar flare and I'll be able to tell you where to go see the Northern Lights. You just have to pay attention to various websites that track the solar activity and then make your move. You can see it as far south as New York, even further south. They can go down the eastern seaboard. Just depends on how strong the magnetic storm is that's coming from the sun.
And we're going to go to our next viewer question, Jackie. This comes from Andrew in Chicago. So Andrew, what would you like to ask the experts?
As an astronomer, what is one of the coolest things you've witnessed looking up at the night sky?
Ooh, Andrew from Chicago. The coolest thing I've ever witnessed looking at the nighttime sky, I think I have a tie between two different things. One is during a meteor shower. Meteor showers happen at very, very predictable parts of the year. And there's one called the Perseids that I particularly love. It happens in August. It's a beautiful meteor shower. And during them, I saw a fireball, a meteor that was lit up the whole sky. It was just probably a rock, a tiny rock. And it shook me to my core when I saw it. It was instantaneous. It was amazing. I cannot imagine seeing that if I didn't know that a meteor shower was going on and feeling good, because it felt scary. But because I knew what was going on, I just felt like I had just gotten off a roller coaster. And then the second thing I would say is just the Milky Way. The Milky Way that we live in the summer for the Northern Hemisphere, gets really high in your sky. And if you get yourself to a dark area, it is magical to see it. It's got a stream around that just really looks like a milky white, beautiful, creamy area filled with stars. So 2 of those things I have been blown away by in my own astronomical observing experience.
Really cool stuff. Well, Jackie, before we let you go, where can we get more information on you and the American Museum of Natural History?
Yes. So if you go to amnh.org, you can get all sorts of information about the American Museum of Natural History, public programs that we do. We have a lot of public programs. Once a month, we have astronomy live programs that you can come into the Hayden Planetarium and you can hear somebody like me, I often do it, give you a live tour of something really exciting that's happening in astrophysics at that time. Then you can follow the museum on any of your favorite social medias. You can also follow me on social media. I often tweet or put on Instagram really fun, interesting astronomical events that are happening. So you just have to look up my name or the museum's name, and you'll get all sorts of really great astronomical information.
That's great stuff. Your passion for this is contagious, Jackie, so we really appreciate you and your time. So thanks for joining us here on this edition of Ask the Experts. And don't forget, when you have a question about weather, space, or science, ask the experts. Send us an email at asktheexperts@AccuWeather.com. You can also call us at 888-566-6606. Coming up next, it's WeatherWise with 3 interesting things. We're going to share some of the most amazing images captured by the James Webb Space Telescope when Ask the Experts returns. Welcome back to AccuWeather's Ask the Experts. I'm your host, Jeff Cornish, and it is now time for WeatherWise. Today we go up in space with 3 interesting things captured by the James Webb Space Telescope. NASA says the primary goals of the telescope are to study galaxy, star, and planet formation in the universe. First, galaxies. So this image shows the Cartwheel galaxy on the right and 2 companion galaxies on the left. The Cartwheel has 2 rings, a bright inner ring and a colorful outer ring. Scientists say that this spiral galaxy was formed after a high-speed collision 400 million years ago. Second, stars. Take a look at this exploded star called Cassiopeia A. This supernova is one of the most studied stellar explosions in the Milky Way by astronomers. Infrared light is invisible to our eyes, but with the James Webb Telescope and image processors, scientists can translate these light wavelengths to visible colors. And third, planets. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. Called the gas giant, this Webb Space Telescope image of Jupiter revealed a hidden jet stream traveling at a speedy 320 miles per hour in Jupiter's atmosphere. And you can see that bright white band at Jupiter's equator. Well, those are clouds. And there's the big storm, the bottom right. Thanks so much for joining us here on AccuWeather's Ask the Experts. I'm Jeff Cornish. Remember, when you have a question about weather, space, or science, ask the experts. You can email us at asktheexperts@AccuWeather.com. You can also call us at 888-566-6606. Thanks for being with us. Have a great one.